and see all these people, and there'd be like kind of people whose stuff you really connected with, or that you kind of saw what they were like kind of working on and like putting together, and then it was like Cookie's stuff seems so like effortlessly perfect that it's just incredible. Not to like put loads of pressure on you before you come up and perform, but yeah, so you're in for an absolutely wonderful set, I am sure. Cookie is a poet who featured in the Home Manchester Open Exhibition in 2022, on BBC Radio Manchester for Black History Month, under the Pavement, Worldwide FM, and at spoken word nights across Manchester. There's a lot of Cookie going around. Writing poems that shed light on our dark sides and a real yet humorous approach to their perception of human nature. Please, everyone, I'm very excited to introduce you all to Cookie Love. Please welcome them to the stage.
Two days in, and Monday might be calling, but I'm drunk on a cocktail of cigs and endorphins and powders and thrills off cheap liquor and pills. I've told all the jokes and worked all the blokes, well, the ones with the coke, I'm not stupid. And I've been giving it an but pure inflatus, even though it won't be long till I'm back on hiatus. And on that walk home, the fear factor, it finally sets in. But the only challenge really is me, facing my sins, thinking, why do I do this to myself? Because it is not good for my head and it is not good for my health. And I know I should just pack it in for a bit, because I'm pretty done with doing lines and I'm fucking sick of talking shit. Never quite remembering who I've seen or where I've been, because everything's just sideways, coked up, toked up, horizontal scenes. So will someone kindly take me to the vets and please just put me down, because I've got nothing left, I'm just a shell with a deep set frown. Got a pity party takeaway, filling up my bed. And now I'm double dropping tea bags, and I'm hiding in my head. Thank you. Alright, set list. I don't really know. I just write the poems on it, and then I think, oh, which one would try and lift the mood from the last one, but I don't think that's going to be an option. I'm a bit emo when it comes to poetry. I think, someone told me that, oh, you really wear your heart on your sleeve, and I was like, I don't actually do that. I don't know how they construed that from me as part of being my personality. But I do open up with my emotions in poetry, and that's probably the only time that people probably know what's actually going on with myself. I think that, this next one, it opens up with a line about wearing my heart on my sleeve. I've had a lot of family stuff go on, and without a therapist, how do you process? And then I wrote this poem about it. It's probably not going to make much sense to anyone, but my family name is Ricketts by my mother's maiden name. No, you can't have my PIN number, but my mother's maiden name is Ricketts. I wore my heart on my sleeve like a used tissue, tucked in and out of mind. It fell to the floor in dirty, used shame, picked and stuffed into pockets, followed into fragments and forgotten again. I say it with my chest as emphysema would, breathless and depthless. Blue lips whisper carelessly, wheezing sentiments lodged in my throat. Tickled pink phlegm rises, I cough, I choke. You know your worth like moneylenders on council estates, keeping check in mental notes. Inflation of ego and interest rise, contactless currency signs in your eyes. Exhausting transactions that only amount to a debt to delusion in this current account. So, I follow in your footsteps with rickets-laden bones, bandy-bowed and knock-kneed, ankles crumbling with deficiencies, A loaded weight I cannot bear, a problem halved I cannot share. Eroding me, I let it wear, piece by piece, tear by tear. Thanks. I'm in a band, I'm not used to this. Sorry, I just want to move a little bit. I'm not used to standing still. Yeah. This next one is about agoraphobia. Yeah, it hits me every now and again. And I think sometimes it's easier to just like write about the things that scare you the most to try and come to terms with them. And I kind of wrote this one a little bit like the horror story that it is. There is a monster under my bed, awaiting to scratch at Achilles' heels. As ankles are lowered, it reaches out to peel the skin, showing bone. Brittle, fragile, lack of use, malnourished and craven for substance abuse. The floor is lava. Hot rock spittle across the space between myself and the door. Heat melts soles of feet, smouldering to its core. Wearily adorned armour to brace the elements, pungent, bubbling and burning rubber prevalent. Having allowed muscle mass to melt into the mattress topper, nothing seems that wearable. No amount of coverage from oversized hoodies makes 867 steps to the shop any more bearable. The door handle, glowing rouge, amber, white, searing through flesh, sweaty palm, grip tight. The opening reveals eyes upon eyes, gawping at horrors before them. Gaunt cheeks and pointed teeth knock back on their necks, cackling at the image of me. Unable to breathe over the sound of laughter, the resonance of glee clutching at arteries, throat, chest, heart, and fall to the knees. Scalding pool surrounding. Retreat back to the weight of the duvet, scrunched eyes, veins pounding. Dizzying vertigo swarms as calves click and connect to joints descending through layers of residence. Ghouls circle the hallways, judging and gathering evidence. If a housemate were to appear, I would surely crumble. Keys clatter as I fumble and mumble repetitive friendly statements, something cordial, permissible. Floorboards creak, admit defeat, turn a shade of invisible. Cloaked in a stale pheromonal fear. Blinkers on, tunnel vision for exit, nothing to see here. Now, a bed of nails whips against skin. Whipping a cat of nine tails in the wind. Tear ducts activated, stinging, ringing reminders to keep a steady pace, for there's a stranger in front and behind and neither are to see your face. Truthfully, I am my own hunter, off to gather fatty rations, oozing phobias and dwindling all passions. Self-checkouts allow me to check out selfish actions. Warped fisheye imagery displays as I only scan a fraction. This weary head, grateful for the poorly attended store, trudging the exact returning route, turning keys, silently forcing doors back into frames singed by molten floors. Floorboards creak. Aberrations swipe and stretch beneath and by millimeters miss my feet. Insects scuttle across walls as I bundle into covers. Camouflage hung, hoping to never again be seen. Steadying neuroses, soothed by a scream. Thanks. Okay. What was my time slot again?
Whatever you're happy with.
I'm happy. Are you happy, guy? Try it out. I didn't write. I do have a funny poem. I will go with mansplain. Slightly. humorous. Why is it always one of the plain mans? They lift the weights, they go for spray tans, they package holidays, they bring the Ray-Bans, that feel the need to mansplain and self-righteously explain, causing me to courageously refrain from kicking the fuck up. When I clearly understand it's just to take the upper hand to make me have to listen to their voice, devoid of any other choice, without wanting or asking, but darling, you must find this so tasking. Well, if I did, then I'd say so. I'd ask you or someone else, you know? Don't presume, because of this womb, that I'm incapable. But, to be fair, man's plain. The most basic of bitches. And the girls that all reject them are all just lesers and witches. But seriously, if I was to compare thee to a sandwich, I'd say 2-day-old ham butty, no butter, no sauce, just curling at the edges, much like myself when you talk. Thank you. All right, this next poem, I'm not one for reading poems off my phone. It's not a stush thing. I just like to challenge myself to remember something that happens in these 24 hours of existence. But I struggle at the moment. I wanted to have a separate Instagram account to my regular account, and I was like, oh, what should I call myself? And someone was like, some of your poems are really long. You should go for Chronicles by Cookie. That's a word I can't spell, which is great. And then also, I started writing chronicles. I started writing like 5-minute minimum long poems that my brain capacity no longer can remember. And I'm just like, why have I done this? But I used to live in a house. I moved into this house. It was gorgeous, like really nice co-op. Don't move in a co-op if you can handle having a meeting about wanting to put a picture on the wall. But I moved into a co-op. My housemate turned on me. It became the worst place on earth. But I just refused to leave because I was like, no, we moved in here together and you will love me again. And we will be friends and I just won't leave. And like, I'd go home every day, put the key in the door and like have instant depression. But I just wouldn't move out. And I was just like, what's happening here? And I realised there was a battle going on between my logic and just spite. Like, I moved through spite. I moved through caffeine and spite. So I was like, how do I change this about myself? And I was like, write a poem about it. It usually fixes all the rest of your flaws. So this is called The Battle. It's about reason and spite. Just swap hands. I hate holding the microphone in that hand. Let's start. A bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. And in our cataclysmic coming of age, we meet our lefts, rights, and wrongs. Through battles of logic and visceral war. Rising from the magma of our inner core, through battles of logic and visceral war, rose two hardy warriors. Reason and spite. Within reason, patience grew fruit. See this one again. Within reason was a passion for understanding. Patience grew fruit. Devoid from underhanded comments and tactics, all qualities that spite lacked in. They knew themselves, and they knew they were enemies. Reason took to the season with ease and desire, clearing conviction, an approach prior acquired from taking a minute, a moment, a while to heal the afflictions that were dealt as a child, taking into account the amount they had to give, ensuring they were just but never without, with a forwards ever, backwards never, a well-rounded perspective. Reason took to scenes, cool, calm, collected. Well, spite was such an old fuddy-duddy, so stuck in the mud that his feet turned to spuds. And to cuss up a fuss was a must and a plus, but impossible cause he had fully misjudged how melded the mud had become in his blood. With dirt in his eyes, he claimed he could see that the scum in his tongue was all he could be. Silt in his teeth, shit in his ears, the sound of the ground was all he could hear. He wasn't grounded. No. He'd soiled himself, turning that level 11 onto the 12th. Cut off his nose when his face told him not to, and did all the things he could possibly undo. Blinded by an eye for an eye perception, and then scooped out the thirds for means of protection, because Spike didn't crave for higher knowledge. He knows what he knows, and no matter how honest and fair that reason might be, that empty sockets left more room to disagree. Well, I had a reason for everything, until they finally burnt out, effectively draining the well beyond reasonable doubt. You see, careful consideration is fine, but overthinking will frazzle your mind. You cannot intellectualize emotions and feelings. These kind of thought cycles leave you open, freewheeling and barreling into dark states, dwelling in hovels, lost in a selfish narrative and egocentric novel. And then spite will ignite. With a squint of an eye and a curl of a lip, malice rises like bile in a snarky quip. With cynical comprehension, all fairness eclipse. No justification, no reason. You're just a little bitch. And as disdain pumps through your veins, reason raises its weary head, with a clearer perception in its reins of what to hold and what to shed. As to negate is sometimes necessary, but not to be overexpressed. Forged with purpose and rationality, a profound discernment, a sound mentality, standing to the forefront once more, reason overrode spite. It had no place or home anymore, ejected from cranium, heart, and sight. Spite had spat sputum on every situation, expectorated envy through mere association, slid the sword back in the stone, bent over backwards to break all its bones, grew old and tired of himself, far too pig-headed to care about health, laying on his deathbed of nails, all tucked up yet thinly veiled, comfortable in his bad decisions, resting his head on collision. And when Spite was nearly on his way out, shifting bile from his throat to speak without intervention, without reason, but rhymed, hate is gonna hate one last time. Thank you. Okay. Two more? One more? How many?
Two more.
Two more? Sick.
Two's cool.
We can do a slightly uplifting one. This one is about, what's entitled about? The title is about everyone being told that they're born special, but then being pushed through the same cogs and expecting to turn out different, which is just pure logic. And yeah, I decided to write a poem about that very confusing thing that we call the system. Show me the rule book, the how-to and the how-not. No cheat sheet so you can backseat drive your way through this life. Your guess is honestly as good as mine. So we respond to intuition, get lost in inanition, expect the short and simple and end up with a mission. Or on one. Or feeling like we need those type of days back. But they're gone. Because you've paved over pictures of paradise to fold out a flat pack future that you could get used to. Why? Because some vampiric satirical Tory told you the only way for you is a 2.4 life. With much joy and little strife. And the ones that bore you said you will be special. And then grind you down in an heirloomed mortar and pestle, hoping one day that you will break the mould. Put a crack in that bowl and they'll line it with gold and rinse and repeat. What a feat. We can't all be original. We are matter, we are residual, we are everything and nothing, and that amounts to something. So why is it not okay to miss the mark that you made? You cannot be a master of a craft that you did not create. Yet, to approach this life from a studious state aggravates. To belittle the student and praise the sensei doesn't really make much sense, eh? Poignantly pointless. They say listen more and say less. You know nothing. You're amazing. You're also one in a million. And I mean that. I won't be replacing or retracing this highly debasing phrasing. You are amazing. You're just not the only one. We're reaching these higher states of consciousness to unravel what's been done before us. From the ascension of my ancestors, I transcend this spiraling thought. Begin to separate from what I should and what I ought to be or not to be. It's not even a question. I vow to be, consistently, to revel in naivety. So I reject this scripted society, this one-size-fits-all money-making machine with all its brainwashing cycles has in fact washed mine clean. I'm a living infusion, self-assured in my confusion. The knowing is all about the not knowing. Anyway, thank you. Decent. You actually got away with 2, 3 sad poems I didn't do. Okay. You're lucky. We're on to the only uplifting poem I possess. It's called Fever Coat. It's 5 minutes long though. It is 5 minutes long, but it's just about my experience growing up in the UK and my family's experience too. Thank you very much for having me. This has been lovely. Lovely little place. And I like it here. It reminds me of Cumbria. Yeah, I stood outside thinking about that. I used to live in South Cumbria. It's dangerous for me. But it's nice here, so thank you very much for having me. Yeah, this is Fever Coat. So, I was flicking through the old rectangle of doom and I stumbled across a meme. Well, a sort of infographic which was more than it seemed. It showed a picture of some kittens, mostly white with flecks of black. It caught my attention. I read the text because, I love a cat. It said, "A fever coat is when the mother cat is sick during pregnancy and the kittens are then born with a greyish white fur which eventually fades to black as they age." I blinked. I think. From white noise to blackout, my mind became an abyss. What is this? Why am I empathising with this cat? I'm certainly not a speciesist, it's not about that. It was a different sensation, not my familiar void. Rather, a part of my psyche that I actively avoid. But I'd like to delve with minimal mudslinging and discuss my mother, my experience and my upbringing. Her mother sailed to these lands to provide labour for a living. She did not complain. Ever growing, ever giving, 6 daughters sought after the treasures that were promised. A good education and jobs if you toned down and remained modest. They were young, but not too infantile to understand that they were gifted opportunities, taught to never bite the hand, and that they were black. And that's that. And this became their learnt behaviour. Comply to this country, and one day subservience will be your saviour. And one of those daughters bore me and a brother, and one of the lessons I learnt from my mother was good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good becomes better and your better becomes your best, but that bettering was a battering up here. Constantly conflicted, yet learning to adhere and understand the patois that was spoken, but not to repeat it to my peers or I'd be seen as a token. To comply to these... be seen as a token. That's never happened before, has it? I was talking to you about these fucking chronicles, I swear. Oh yeah. To conform to these societal expectations whilst partially cloaking my roots. These are very foundations, my roots I should be watering, but only where I reside, not outside. I never spoke of it, I guess a matter of pride. So, I found my solace in music. No parental limits were placed. It was mine, I got to choose it. Off beats, big bass, heavy riffs, untis, and with this, I grew to become a dirty little mosher. Hanging out with punks, doing drugs, getting drunk, much to the dismay of my mother. I wore new rocks, wide baggy jeans and fishnets with everything. Drew on that drippy and dramatic eyeliner to represent the sadness within. And though I felt at home on my new metal throne, I was still a shock to that scene. I mean, have you ever had to justify to some dude why you're attending this gig, how you discovered this tune? Because you're the sore thumb, and they don't even see it as rude. And now you're construed as the black sheep. And that's deep, because this livestock label didn't just stop there, it welcomed me in at home pretty much everywhere. To my family, I was the bounty, the Malteser, the coconut gal, because I didn't please him. They grounded me for announcing myself as a Wiccan, yet for dinner we ate a Sunday roast with jerk chicken. And then I realised that for most of my life, I have been this kitten. Grayscale to a monochrome ombre, and thusly my focus has never been to fit in. And rightly so. The wider world is waking up, trading its tokens in, taking another look. Pigeonholes are full of... How do I keep doing this? The wider world is waking up, trading its tokens in, taking another look. Typecasts are out of paper and ink, and pigeonholes are full of stale labels that have been pushed to the brink. So my only wish is to break the systemic sickness that they have bore witness to, and shed the coat I forged from what me and my mum have unfortunately had to live through. I've come to understand the conflictions between me and my mother, all the stress and friction, and now I just embrace the amalgamation of culture. Mate, eat a full English with plantain, move with force, we are the Unchained. My fever coat has faded. Only onyx overtones shall overthrow. From a kitten to a cat to a